The people of Cordova, Alaska pride themselves on their independence. The remote fishing village along the eastern edge of the Prince William Sound is only accessible by air or sea. Cordovans are also resilient. They were dealt a near-death blow by the Exxon Valdez oil tanker spill in 1989, the largest oil spill in the U.S. before the unfolding disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. Nearly everyone in this town of about 2,000 has a hand in the fisheries. So when 11 million gallons of toxic cargo flowed into the pristine sound after the tanker ran aground, it cut to the economic bone of Cordova.
The value of the permit is roughly, loosely based on what you would expect to gross in a season of income, and so the expected gross for this particular fishery went from $300,000 a year down to 11, and at that point, probably about 3/4 of the 270 permits couldn't even fish their permits. They were just out of business.
The man-made disaster also hit the indigenous Iyuk people, who have fished the sea here for centuries.
20 years ago, in my family, and it wasn't too far extended, there were 5 fishing permits, and 5 of the men and families were fishing. 1 is fishing now, and he has no one that's going to inherit his permit.
Glaciers like this provide the mineral lifeline for the delicate ecology of the Prince William Sound, some of which was permanently damaged by the oil spill. Conservationists say that best practices and preventative measures put in after the disaster are not being implemented elsewhere. The prized Pacific herring the fishing vessels of Cordova used to haul in never returned after the Exxon Valdez spill.
It takes 4 years for a herring to recruit into the harvestable population and to begin to lay eggs. So 4 years after the oil spill, that population that should have been born in 1989 failed to recruit into the population, nor did the 1990 population or 91 population or 92 population that should have recruited into the main biomass. They just failed to show.
To this day, oil contamination is still found on the beaches here. In the spill's wake, new U.S. legislation was passed, and millions of dollars went into changing the way oil is shipped out of the Sound. But those measures are not widely enforced in the United States.
Unfortunately, the oil industry was able to influence Congress and prevent those kinds of oversight and capacities from being implemented outside of Prince William Sound in the Cook Inlet Kodiak spill area, and that's one of the big tragic legacies of that legislation.
To the people of the Gulf of Mexico, words of advice from those who went through and still go through the hardship of a massive man-made disaster.
If I had known that 20 years later we were going to be where we are now, and all the misery and trauma that we've been through as a community and as a family, I would probably just cut my losses and get out of fishing, because they ruined our income, our livelihood, our lifestyle, and we didn't even know it because it happened so slowly, and we kept clinging to promises and hopes that didn't materialize.
It's a unity and having your base. And the base I'm talking about is keeping your family together. It's very hard to do because everyone's scared, frightened.
From one fisherman to another.
You just kind of have to accept it. You're screwed. It's happened. Your whole life is changed around that. So you need to stick together, take care of each other, because you're in for a long, long haul.
Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera, Cordova, Alaska.